This episode was first screened on the broadcast on the 15th of November 1993. It was directed by James L. Conway and written by Peter Allen Fields. And it's really unusual not to have a separate screenwriter and story writer. He did both. He wrote one of my favourite TNG episodes, The Inner Light, as well as several of the DS9 episodes we've already seen, including Duet. He's a very strong Star Trek writer. In terms of content warning, this episode contains intimations of violence, murder, sex work. It has scenes showing the occupation during a war. There is a phaser fired at least once, I think maybe twice. Someone is stabbed on screen, and there is one scene where a character is smothered with a pillow. I don't think we're showing images of any of these, but we will be discussing these during the episode. In terms of the plot summary, thank you, Wikipedia. There's quite a lot in this one. Buckle up, children. A Bajoran woman, Vatrik Palra, hires Quark to retrieve a strongbox from her late husband's shop on Deep Space Nine. Quark opens it to find a list of Bajoran names. A stranger, Trasco, sneaks up, shoots Quark, and steals the list. As Dr. Bashir tries to revive Quark, Quark's brother Rom tells Odo about the list of names and that the box was hidden in the shop during the occupation. In a flashback 5 years earlier, Odo is solicited by the station's Cardassian commander Gul Dukat to investigate a murder. Odo interrogates Vatrik Palra, the deceased's widow. She claims her husband had been having an affair with Kira Nerys. When he interviews Kira, she says that there was no intimate relationship between her and Vatrik and that she was interviewing for a job at Quark's bar at the time of the murder. In the present, Rom tells Odo that one name on the list resembled Chesso. Odo interviews Palra, who claims ignorance of the list of names and the name Chesso. She also refuses to divulge the identity of the individual who loaned the money to pay her past-due electricity bill. Kira identifies Chesso, a philanthropist named Cesaro, who has just died. About 5 years earlier, Quark admits that Kira bribed him to provide a false alibi. When Odo confronts her about it, Kira reveals that she was committing a terrorist attack on the station at the time. Odo tells Dukat that Kira is not the culprit in the murder. In the present, Odo deduces that the names on the list are Bajorans who collaborated with the Cardassians during the occupation, whom Palra has been blackmailing. Trasco attempts again to kill Quark. Rom saves Quark's life by screaming, gaining the attention of security officers. Brought to DS9, Palra denies knowing Trasco, but Odo has confirmed that she recently transferred a large sum of money into his bank account. When she declares her innocence in the murder of her husband, Odo replies, "I know." Odo has realized that it is Kira who killed Vatrik 5 years earlier. He tells Kira that he began to suspect her when she was able to identify Cesaro so quickly. When he deduced that the list consisted of Bajoran collaborators, Odo realized that Vatrik was a collaborator too and now understands that Dukat chose him to investigate so as to keep distance from his collaborators. Kira, a member of the Resistance, killed Vatrik when he discovered her trying to steal the list of names. She never told Odo because she was afraid it would affect their friendship. Kira asks him if he will be able to trust her again, and he is unable to answer. It's all plot, all names, all the time, all going on.
Yes, incredibly complex. Well summed up. Thank you, Kat, and thank you, Wikipedia. But yes, I think that is a brilliant introduction to how complex and convoluted this episode is, and that's before we get into the fact that it also jumps back in time a fair bit. So we see characters at different times, kind of in their personal past. So yeah, this is a very complex episode, certainly.
It is. I think a lot of episodes do a lot with their 45-minute runtime, but this one particularly has a lot of plot to squeeze in, a lot of new names to remember, and I think it does a very elegant job of introducing those and keeping in our mind who everybody is. I think that the summary I've just given was not especially helpful, especially if you haven't watched the episode for a while. But I think that in the course of watching it, it is actually very clear what's happening at every moment, which is a great achievement in itself.
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. I'm going to pick up on the fact that I didn't realise Peter Allen Fields had done the teleplay. That's wonderful. Yes, did the teleplay for Duet, a absolutely blinding season 1 episode that also dealt with kind of Cardassian history. He was also a producer as well. He co-produced a few episodes of Deep Space Nine TNG and produced a few episodes of Deep Space Nine. And according to Memory Alpha, Ira Stephen Bear credits him with creating the character Garak. So what an amazing creator he was. Sadly, Peter passed away in 2019, but his wonderful contributions to Star Trek remain with us to this day. So that's marvellous. I didn't realise it was Peter Allen Fields. That's, as always, thank you, Kat, for the tech info up front. Wonderful.
I think it makes a lot of sense that it was someone who was already very embedded in Star Trek. So I think this episode, it both draws on a lot of things we've already seen,
Mm.
and I feel as if a lot of things that have happened in this episode will be projected forward into other episodes. It feels like one of those. Obviously, I don't know. They might just forget all of it when the credits roll. But it feels like one of those load-bearing episodes. It defines how Terok and all looked prior to the Federation arriving. It gives details about how several of the characters met for the first time. It does a lot of building into the present in our world. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense that it was a guy who knew a lot about it and was therefore given permission, given free reign to add more and say, this is what happened. This is canonically what occurred.
Okay, so we're already halfway into it. So yeah, do you want to give me some initial impressions?
Certainly, I really enjoyed it. I think they did a really good job of establishing what time we're in at any given moment. Although it's all set on the same station, they came up with a very strong visual identity for
Yes.
Terok Nor
Yeah.
the 5 years ago versus DS9 in the present. And yeah, it was a good, intriguing story. I think I was less interested in the actual story than I was in the characters, as per usual. Murder mystery isn't necessarily my favourite genre. And as I said, there were quite a few new names. It's about the Bajoran occupation and about who was a traitor during that occupation as much as it is about who committed a murder. So it's good world building. It is an interesting enough story, but it's mostly the interplay between the characters, which I think happened really well in this episode, despite there being a lot of plot to get through. I think it isn't thin on the seeing the characters being themselves at each other. So yeah, I enjoyed it.
Nice one. Oh, I like that take. I also came away from it thoroughly enjoying it. Again, for much the same reasons. The interplay between the characters was brilliant. It felt like for the first time in Deep Space Nine, we were watching an episode where not having seen previous episodes was actually a bit of an obstacle to clear, because this is so invested in. This is the first time Odo met Quark. This is the first time Odo met Kira. This is what it was like when Dukat was in charge of the station. And there's actually not masses of context. There were a few lines where it's like, oh, well, the box in the shop was hidden during the occupation, you know, when the Cardassians were in charge. So little crumbs of context are sprinkled, but ultimately, I think if you hadn't been following Deep Space Nine as intently as we have, you might have found some of this actually a little confusing. Like, why did it jump back in time? Who were some of these people? Why does the station look like this? Could it have been somewhere else? No. So I do think this is a bold step away from, as we've pointed out a few times previously in the podcast, no longer episodic sealed bottle episodes like TNG normally operates on. This really pulls together a lot of strands and starts really kind of building a story that is enmeshed within this universe that you need to have some understanding of. Does that seem like a kind of reasonable take?
I think so. I think that for much of it, I think it does enough of the kind of visual signaling that television does. Odo will gaze into the distance before it cuts into
that's a point.
They'll say that this is the bar where the shop used to be. I think they've got just enough there for you to be able to follow the plot. But I like that they don't do kind of meta commentary. They don't go, I remember when I first met Quark all those years ago.
And it's like harps playing and it all goes fuzzy.
Exactly. They don't do any of that. They treat the audience as if they would be able to follow what's going on, and they don't heavily they don't really heavily signal when something of plot importance is about to occur. The music, I guess, does that for us.
It does. And I do think sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, I think that they've pulled together a lot of different things very well in this episode. It could have been a mess. It could have been far too skimmed down to just the plot points and not enough character stuff involved.
That was a risk.
But I think they really respect who each of the characters are, and it doesn't feel as if any of the characters are acting out of themselves. They're not forced into roles that they wouldn't naturally inhabit. I think the only two who I don't think are given fair thrift are probably Cisco and Dax, who just have to sit there saying things to progress the plot.
It's incredibly light actually on the Starfleet crew, isn't it? I think Bashir gets to be a doctor at the beginning, and briefly like, Quark's been treated. We'll see if he pulls through, and then he just kind of walks off the side, and that's it. He does not return for the rest of the episode because this is not about him. And it's not about Dax and Cisco, which is a refreshing change. You know, we've talked about how Deep Space Nine is willing to steer away from the Starfleet crew and into the stories of the non-Starfleet personnel. But you're right. When it does use them, it uses them very perfunctorily, I think you would say.
Which I think is reasonable. I think they're doing a decent job of giving different characters the spotlight now and then. Although Quark doesn't actually appear in this one that much. He spends a lot of it unconscious.
That's
And
true.
we've had quite a few Quark episodes already this season. We're on episode 8 now, and I think the last 2 have featured Quark quite prominently.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a good point. And I'll say it now because it's just occurred to me and it won't occur to me later. Again, the showrunners seem to be fumbling Garak a bit.
Yeah.
Because we know he was on the station at this time.
God damn it, you're right, and he's not here.
He's not here.
Where's my Garak?
Where is
what have
he?
they done with my boy? Oh.
And I feel like even if they had remembered him, it would have gotten in the way of the main plot, which is Odo can take part in this plot because he doesn't stand between either camps. Whatever Garak's situation is, whatever his sitch is.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It might
That
just have
wouldn't-
stood to muddy the waters because Garak, I
Precisely.
think for who he is, would have to have known exactly what was happening with everyone at all times. Why didn't Odo just go and interrogate him for a bit?
This is it. This is it. But any missed opportunity to show Garak, I think I'll always feel a little bit sad at. But the plot does not allow for that bitch in this particular plot.
Damn it, I just feel sad at having seen Garak now. I think I'd kind of relegated into the back of my mind again. Seen
I'm
him
so
this
sorry.
season, he's gone. I want
I'm
him
so
back
sorry.
again now.
And he will soon. And so we must press on through this episode and get into it. So also, just when you say they didn't show that it had gone back in time, again, this is going to require you as a viewer to realize what it is we've been transported back to. You need to have some knowledge. I mean, they mention it occasionally in lines, you know, it's been there since the occupation. Well, you need to know what that is, how long ago it was. So you still need some context that the episode doesn't go out of its way to give you. So this rewards the accomplished Deep Space Nine viewer, I'd say.
It does, but I think you also very quickly pick up what the role of the
Oh,
Cardassians is.
yeah.
We don't see any Cardassians on the station in the current day.
Mm.
So even if this was the first episode you watch, it's like, whoa, who are these tall guys with the amazing looking necks?
Take it easy, Cat.
Yeah, I know. This was a difficult episode for me to get through morally. But yes,
Mm.
the next
Okay.
picture. Greeting Odo. I'm sorry.
Okay, so we talked in Cardassians about everyone's favourite villain, Gul Dukat, and his prominent neck scales, and how that had an impact on my co-pilot. And as if to kind of double down, we have this picture of Gul Dukat basically lounging like a whore, like a common whore, in his just cocky, assertive, oh, well, hello, you find me here at a murder scene, laid back, relaxing. There it is. So, Cat, you know,
I
hand
know
over
he's
to you.
evil, but I could change him. Oh God. It's terrible. I know in my heart of hearts they are Nazi stand-ins. The Cardassians are in no way to be admired. I fucking love the way that Mark Alemo plays Gul Dukat. He is absolutely brilliant. He's a very charismatic villain, and just the fact that he's sitting here with the tankard, leaning back, feet up, neck on display,
All right.
doesn't give a shit. Oh.
So, yeah, so we've talked before about how we both bring different perspectives to the show, and you know, I can safely say that I've
Distance
never.
yourself.
I'm just drawing the lines. You know, I see Dukat as yes, very much the same. He's a charismatic villain. You know, the actor Mark Alemo leans very enthusiastically into portrayal of a character and brings him incredibly to life. There is an angle to interpreting Dukat that I don't possess. I just don't possess, and I'm grateful to Kat for bringing it to our attention, even though I just don't share it as you know as much as them. In the chat there, I see the Endor Cat is saying he is annoyingly charismatic. That's a good way to put it. Bakery Dragon, Garak is definitely not the only devilishly charming Cardassian. Again, Garak as well is also quite charismatic, even more morally grey, whereas Dukat is more kind of just evidently evil.
Just evil, yeah.
But yes, this scene is just a lot of fun. It is Dukat as we've not seen him. You know, we've seen him throwing his weight around as a bit of a bully and walking villain, but here he's in his element. It's his station. It's his Bajor. This is
This is when he's at the height of his power.
bingo.
Yeah.
So, what? How did you take to this scene, Kat? Now that we've got the smut out the way.
I enjoyed it. I think that yeah, it's very nicely done. Just say Mark Lehman just absolutely throws himself into the role. I love that he leans into the S's in Cardassian in the same way that Cisco does, the same way that Avery Brooks does, and it just lends it that little more alienness, that little more lizardness, I guess. But I think, yeah, I think there is some very deliberate humor in the scene as well. It's balancing
Oh yeah.
the absolute grimness of the occupation against the casual evil of Gul Dukat,
hmm
working out what it is that
Excellent
he
take.
wants from Odo and why he's brought him in for this.
hmm
And I really appreciate the to and fro between them.
Mm.
Odo not having much power, but having definitely, I think, a stolidness about him, even at this point. And
Mm.
yeah, the on screen, the actual discussion about why it is that he's chosen Odo to do the job of investigating. But one bit that I appreciate that it's in there and it's uncomfortable and it's funny all at once. Gul Dukat laughs while remembering that Odo did a Cardassian neck trick.
Mm.
And it's the fact that it's Cardassian neck trick. They never describe what it is.
No.
I think that is a very deliberate joke. It's the fact that Cardassian necks are very distinctive. Odo is a shapeshifter. He can clearly change to have a Cardassian-like appearance very quickly
Mm.
for humorous effect. He has been forced to do this by the occupying powers
Mm.
against his will, not wanting to help them.
Yeah.
And it's just that absolute mixture of Gul Dukat bringing it up lightly as something he enjoyed and Odo being absolutely oppressed by it, and all of that being acted on screen very subtly without a third character having to be there saying, hey, do you know what? That actually wasn't okay. It's just everything in it is just so well telegraphed, and it's brought up again later in the scene with Quark. And it's just such a well conceived detail, which is never shown on screen. I hope we will never be shown it on screen, but it's everything that it needs to be, and it's great world building, and it brings so much out of both characters for a moment in this really fast moving episode.
I think that's a really really good point, and it also gives you a quick insight into Descartes. His expectations are, oh yes, I remember you did something for us, something that we liked, with no kind of talk of, well, you were also kind of coerced into doing it. There was none of that. It's how Dukat sees the world as, you can give me X, you can give me Y, you can do Z for me, you can investigate this murder for me. He's very direct in his getting what he wants and expecting people to just go along with it. I think you said brilliantly, that kind of casual evil. I do think that is very descriptive in one way of how, and there are many others that I'm not going to get into, but there are many ways in which Descartes exerts power, and this is one of them,
Yes,
where he just casually expects things regardless of what other people want or should do or rules or anything.
absolutely. It's not a do this or I shall put you to the
Oh,
gun or whatever.
yeah,
It
nothing
is
like
just,
that.
oh yes, you'll do
You'll
this
do
for me.
this.
Of
You'll
course you
do
will.
this. And it's really hard to argue with the man who's in charge of the whole station, the planet, everything around you. So there we are, Kat. We've reached the end. Kind of closing thoughts.
Just again, I really hope that some of what we've seen today is gonna be. I don't think plot wise it necessarily will be, but I think in terms of the world building they've done of what Terok Nor looked like,
Mm.
more on what Odo's role was under the Cardassians. I think some of those details will hopefully be picked up and echoed through future episodes, because it was, I think it was a very bold move to finally show Terok Nor in the past, because they
Yes.
hadn't done that previously.
No. It was
So it's very
needed.
nice to have had more than the words, more than just this is the guy that was previously in charge. This is what it looked like. This is how it felt. So I'm very pleased that we've had that. And I don't expect that we'll get it often, but I hope that we will have some more of it, given just how much of the world is built on top of that.
I think it is safe to say that, yes, Terok Nor will continue to cast a shadow over the rest of the show, definitely. But I don't want to say any more than that. just that, we can, we can continue to negotiate the very complicated history that many of the characters had prior to the Federation arriving. Definitely. Yeah, I
Just
think.
one
Mm,
thing that it might be my memory failing me. Did we get a scene of Odo explaining to Dukat that he didn't know who done it? Because how the heck does that end? How does he go like, nah, I've tried every avenue. I'm just not going to find the guy
that's a
or gal
really
or other.
good point. I don't think there was.
No, how does that end? How does Dukat go, oh, that's fine then. We'll just round up some Bajorans and kill them? Or does he just let it go? Or how does that
Oh my
resolve?
god, I have no idea.
I don't think it happens.
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't think they did. How did we miss that? How did I
That's just
miss
it. It
that?
didn't in the arc of the episode. What matters is that Odo can no longer trust Kira. It doesn't actually matter whether Gul Dukat did it because we know that Odo survives,
Yeah.
regardless of what Dukat does in the past. But yeah, I just don't know.
That is bizarre. I suspect.
It would have been nice to have had a shot of Gul Dukat looking angry because we don't often get that. We get him looking deliberately calm. I would have
Yes.
liked an unguarded moment of him in his office looking genuinely frustrated.
I'm sure there are many shots you would like, Kat, but we're not going to dwell on this here in this. But you are right. You are absolutely right. We do not have a resolution to that line, and that is really bizarre. I think because we were so focused on the fact that they were just snapshots of the past illuminating the
Yeah.
present, so we never noticed that there wasn't the final snapshot of Odo saying, presumably he did go to them and say, what I suspect happened actually is that Odo goes to Dukat and goes, I know why he was killed, because he was your link to the collaborators. And if you want me to dig into this further, that will come out. And Dukat going, let's just drop it. Let's just drop it. And I will do what I can to salvage my little network of informants. And then we shall see if the show.
Though, didn't
goes
Odo
into...
only discover that it was a list of collaborators in the present after he'd got the
God
name
damn it,
Chisaro?
he did.
So he didn't even find out what the list was.
He didn't. Son of
Nah. He just got back to Dukat and gone, nah, somebody.
a...
Not the only woman who's been implicated who you might have murdered just to have someone to murder anyway. Fortunately, you didn't.
Even though you would have been right. Oh.
I was right. You could just have killed Kira and got the right person by accident
By
and it would all
accident.
have been wrapped up. But no.
God. That such is the murky nature of Deep Space Nine and the scripts it gives you and the stories it gives you. They are all so grim and murky. But yes, ultimately I came away enjoying this and loving that kind of very ambivalent ending, where it forces two characters we're just starting to get to know and like, having to fundamentally reevaluate their relationship with each other. It's just very, very significant stuff, and I just can't imagine it taking place on the Enterprise. On the Enterprise, they would have pushed for a resolution, and
And
worked it out.
I hope that they will keep some of that distrust/change between the two of them, because it will be very easy for them to just revert next episode to, oh, we love each other and we're best of friends and we've known each other forever, and forget everything that happened.
Let's hang on to our knowledge and see what comes. Well, we are on time, I think, very on time for us. So, yeah, any closing thoughts, Kat?
No, I liked it. I'm looking forward to seeing what comes next. I want more Garak, goddammit, because yeah, no Garak
So do
again.
we all. So do we all. I know we've got The Wire coming down the line, which is a fantastic episode in season 2. So I can't wait to get to that. So yes, we must press on. All right, I'll tie us up then. So just time to thank everyone in chat. There were many of you this evening. Dennis Bloodnock, Bakery Dragon, David, Nigel, Lieutenant Indocat. As always, very many thanks for being our moderator and our reminder of spoilers. It's greatly appreciated when it's really tempted to sell cats something they really shouldn't know well in advance. So it's been a pleasure. We will do our level best to be back in a couple of weeks' time with the next episode. So thank you as always. Everyone take care, live long and prosper. We shall see you again.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Kat. Good night.